Hey everyone, Tim here from SnapAttack. Let's dig into this week's Threat Snapshot. So we've got two threats for you this week. First one we're going to cover is some fake POC exploits that have been circulating around GitHub. So what's interesting about this is it's targeting cybersecurity researchers, red teamers, detection engineers, basically people who are looking for POCs, whether again you're trying to weaponize that from an offensive perspective for a red team engagement, or maybe you're doing detection engineering to see, what artifacts this leaves behind and how you could defend against that exploit. So, for example, if you were looking for the Move It POC, last week you might not have found something. This week you see Horizon 3 pop up with theirs. And, there's certainly other exploits that when it's big, when it's newsworthy, people want to take a look and see, what that leaves behind. So this was interesting because a threat actor was impersonating actual legitimate cybersecurity researchers. You can see here someone from Rapid7. They made a fake company called High Sierra Cybersecurity. They were promoting these on Twitter and other areas, trying to give some air of legitimacy to them. And they were claiming to have these 0 days for Exchange, for Discord, for other, common applications. And these POCs didn't actually do anything other than download malware. So it's always important to test and take a look at your POCs first before you, go ahead and run them in a live environment. But yeah, this is, again, a really interesting threat vector. And again, we've seen this sort of activity from, even nation state actors. So Lazarus Group from North Korea, state-sponsored, they were running this sort of campaign back in January of 2021. Others have done this as well. So this is definitely something to always be, vigilant of and stay on your guard. If you're looking specifically more at this threat, again, you can see a little bit of this from, archive.org. Huge shout out to GitHub for quickly taking these things down and removing them. But again, it is also make it a little bit harder to kind of understand and analyze what's going on. So there are some kind of mirrored repositories where they've done some analysis. Here's again the Python, POC exploit. You can see what it's doing, and again, some of the, looks legitimate. I'm going to perform attack, doing some other stuff, but really it's going to download one of these two files and then, run those. So buried at the end, maybe not as obfuscated as it could have been, but it's still interesting to take a look at. So we ran this POC in SnapAttack. We wanted to see what it did. I will note that sometimes these POCs are broken. Again, I think that leads to the sophistication of the threat actor. So this was downloading CVES windows.zip, but then trying to run the file with an underscore in the name, which it didn't have. So when we run the POC, we'll see the download activity, but we won't actually see anything happen. So you can kind of see here from our video, we're going to do the POC, we're going to put in the IP and port like they say, and yep, this popular CVE scanner is going to do something, it's going to scan, and of course the host is not vulnerable. But there is some interesting activity that goes on behind the scenes, and there are, detection opportunities for a threat like this. So one of these, which is from Elastic's repository with some modifications, this is a good kind of evergreen one. So it's just looking for, applications that are connecting to commonly abused web services. So think about, Google Drive, OneDrive, GitHub, GitHub Gists, Pastebin, other things of that nature, and looking for, applications that are downloading those. So this does have some filters and things. You would have to tune this because, again, there are legitimate reasons to download these files, but we're really looking for processes that are doing this. You can see here again in our threat library, there's, several of these that have hit. This one is PowerShell Empire, using that GitHub user content to download Mimikatz, which again is a common technique. So this is a good kind of evergreen detection that you can use. More specifically around this malware, again, you can look for those files being created in the temp directory. So this is, again, very specific to this POC, but if they are going to continue using that threat, this would be an interesting way to detect that. So always stay on top of your POCs and make sure you check them out before you run them. Moving on to our second threat that we want to cover, we're doing a deep dive on user enumeration, and really, again, enumeration, reconnaissance, whatever you want to call it, it's a vital part of the attack kill chain. When an attacker lands on a machine, they have to orient themselves. They have to know what software is installed, what user account am I, what privilege levels do I have, how can I, escalate those privileges, move to other targets and things. And, those enumeration scripts are, a lot of times using a lot of common techniques that no matter which script we're using, it's going to be interesting to, see what artifacts those leave behind. So we've got several of these that we're adding to the platform. This one here we're looking at is powerless. So if you have been using, going through the OSCP or other stuff, you maybe have seen, scripts like this. This one here is 4 or 5 years old, but again, a lot of times you'll see threat actors and, hacktivists, script kiddies pulling these sort of open source tools, using them for, nefarious purposes and weaponizing them. And under the hood, these tools are also doing lots of common techniques that, are going to be replayed across other tools. So we're not necessarily trying to detect, powerless.bat itself, but what are the TTPs underneath it that are being used. And again, as PowerShell has become a lot more, there's a lot more telemetry, better, monitoring of that. Some attackers are moving back to other kind of living off the land techniques, using the built-in, Windows tools and things for enumeration. So this non-PowerShell approach is something that we have seen threat actors use time and time again, even if it's not necessarily powerless. So we have this threat, we have, a machine up here, we can run that, we can see what's going to go on. So it's going to do lots of different enumeration activities. So it's going to do user discovery, it's going to do file discovery, it's going to look for cached credentials on the machine. It's going to query the registry for credentials, do service discovery, process discovery, query the firewall. Lots of different activity here. Again, this is a comprehensive script aimed for OSCP, but again, you could see how this would also be used for other activity here. The fun thing about these sort of scripts in particular is that they are noisy and they are very detectable. So here you can see where we launched that batch file, that cmd.exe had spawned a total of 625 child processes. I'm not going to go and click through all of those. That would take way more time than we have. You can already see some of these here where it's like I'm running system info and whomI and net.exe, net users and other items like that, which again, this is like you can see we have a detection here for net execution. And again, these are low confidence. You're probably not going to want to alert every time somebody, runs net user in your environment. But if you're running 625 enumeration commands in a 5-minute window, that's definitely something that's suspicious and worth investigating. So yeah, keep that in mind as you're looking at some of these. We do have recommended detections for, threats like this. And these are again highlighted on our side panels. So looking at some of these here, they're all from the Sigma community. So these are, again, very much known threats that have been around for a while and that there are, good detection opportunities. So looking for permission misconfigurations with fine strings. So we have, this technique here. You can see, some of those threats that we have in the library. So looking for files that are, writable by everyone. Again, that could be a way that you could escalate privileges. Looking for Windows hotfix updates, so trying to see if there's vulnerable versions of an operating system, possibly that they're missing patches. So using WMIC to query that information. We do have threats like that in the library. This again is a little bit more of a rare technique. This is why it's being seen as a higher, highest confidence, kind of depending on your environment. So things like this might actually be deployable as an alert just because it's not going to be overly common unless, again, you've got system administrators that are using their scripts and using WMI to query their patch levels. So definitely worth checking things out like that. Some other detections, so suspicious group and account reconnaissance activity with net.exe. Again, you can see here some of those commands. So looking for net or net1, looking for group, local group administrator, looking for exchange admins, other accounts. So again, lots of threats that, use net.exe to, query those sort of things. Looking for cached credentials with CMD key. Again, that's another technique here with another built-in tool to Windows. So definitely something that you would look for, as well as, again, enumerating for credentials in the registry. So Looking here for, where these would be stored in various registry key hives, we can see, some of our threats around that. Looking for putty in here and looking for, searching the registry for, items that have password in it. So definitely, again, good detections to have in your arsenal. And again, depending on the noise level of these really do well for, kind of clustering and, looking for items, number of hits when they, go and aggregate across a single host, looking across an IP or host name or other item like that. So those are some definitely good detection strategies that you may want to employ to help secure your organization. And SnapAttack can help you with that if you ever need to, so feel free to set up a demo or POC. That's our snapshot for this week. This is a weekly series, so like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.